Here's your notes for section 5.1, inequalities. Go ahead and write that down, inequalities. We are going to graph them on a number line. If you're graphing them on a number line, to be able to tell, is it a less than sign or is it a greater than sign, you'll use an open circle above the number. If it's a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you're going to close that circle. So you're looking for the equal sign underneath to fill in the dot. X is less than 3 is your equation. First of all, you have to know that this is less than. Less than points to the left. There's your left. Here's your L. Left, or if you squeeze your L, it makes a less than sign. Give me a few points on the graph, not just the 3, but a couple maybe that go with it. 3 would be okay, 4, 5 numbers. Because there's not an underline, you have an open circle. And with that open circle, you're going to get a straight across, getting smaller, 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 less than, because it goes that way. And you want to know something cool? If you write it in this order, where it goes variable, inequality, number, it practically is a dead giveaway that your arrow is going to go to the left, because that's the way your inequality points. That only works if you put the variable first, which we're going to do every time. Next one, x is greater than or equal to negative 1. Go ahead and write it down. Greater than or equal to, you know that it's greater than because it's pointing right or pointing towards bigger numbers on a number line. Give me a few numbers on here surrounding negative 1. Please make sure you go in the correct direction. I've watched people go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. No, that's not okay. Negative 2 has to go here. Negative 3 has to get smaller. You can throw a 0 in here and a 1. This time, it has an underline, which means our dot over the negative 1 is going to be solid. Negative 1, and we want to get greater than or equal to negative 1. Next, we're going to write an inequality. So they gave us the number line. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Write this down. We know it's an open circle, so it doesn't have an equal sign. And we know that the arrow is pointing to the left. Left means that it's less than. And I said this works every single time as long as you put your variable first. Let's all just use x as our variable. Then it'll be the same. And you're looking at the spot where the circle is, where the open hole is. It's above the 9. You have to use where the inequality starts. This looks like the arrow's over the 6. The arrow's not over the 6. The arrow goes down all the way to negative infinity. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. It never actually stops. It just so happens to be that's how long I drew my arrow. So you're always working with where did it start? Is it an open or closed circle? And x is our variable. X is less than 9. Try this one. Draw it in your notes. Make sure you have a diagram of it so you have something to go back to. And of course, I didn't draw it perfectly over. You can't guess where this is if they don't give you any markings. We're going to go with, let's say that it's perfectly split between negative 2 and negative 3. So we need a variable x. We definitely know that it's going greater than because the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We know from the solid dot that it's got an underline is greater than or equal to. We just have to make sure we write this correct number. If you count backwards, we're going 0 to negative 1, negative 2, negative 2.5. X is greater than or equal to negative 2.5. Next up, solve this inequality and graph it. So it's not just the inequality, it's kind of an equation-like inequality. X minus 5 is greater than negative 4. You solve it exactly the same way you would solve an equals problem. X minus 5 equals negative 4. We've done these before. We've done multi-step, 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, distributive property. We're back to 1-step solving equations. So you can feel good about that. It's good review from first semester. Add 5 to both sides. Why do we add 5? Because we are trying to isolate this x. And if negative 5 plus 5 is 0, you don't have to write down a 0 next to the x. You just eliminated, got rid of those over here. By doing the inverse, if that's negative, we make it positive. But to keep it balanced, whatever you do to one side equation, you have to do to the other side. So we get x equals 1. You know how to do that. This is good review. Don't let it throw you off because you have a greater than sign. You can visualize that as an equal sign. Please don't change it because you might forget to change it back. But we're going to go plus 5 because a negative 5 and a positive 5 cancel. So you get x. Keep your greater than sign. And if you add 5 over here, negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Once you get your answer, come over here and put a few numbers on the graph. Open circle over the 1 because there's no underline, and we are going greater than. So you're going to have to solve and graph. Next one. W minus 9 is less than or equal to 3. W minus 9 is less than or equal to 3. Write it down, solve it, add 9 to both sides. This one cancels. W is less than or equal to 12. Throw a few numbers on your number line. Closed circle because of the underline. And less than means it's pointing to the left. All numbers smaller than 12 or exactly equal to 12. How about this one? P plus 9.5 is less than 5. It's a decimal, but we can do it. It's a nice decimal. We're going to minus 9.5 from both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. Watch your math. Use a calculator here if you need to. P is less than negative 4.5. What numbers do you need on your graph? Negative 4, negative 3, negative 5. If you want to fill up your number line, all 5 of them. We know it's going to be an open circle over negative 4.5. You just got to be careful where you put it. Make sure you're counting backwards because we're getting smaller. Negative 4.5 is halfway between negative 4 and negative 5. Open circle, and we're going to the left. And no, I'm going to say it's not okay to make a number line and put numbers like negative 4.5, negative 3.5, and negative 5.5 so that you can put an open circle over it. We don't use decimals on number lines, always whole numbers. Next up, still a one-step solving equation, but it's in a different order. Order doesn't matter when we're solving. You're still trying to get the number away from the variable. So write this down. We're going to minus 7 this time over here so that we can isolate our x. Keep your sign, but if you minus 7 there, you have to minus 7 there, and you have 2 is greater than or equal to x. So you know you're going to have an open circle over the number 2. Nope, closed circle. Always double check. Closed circle over the number 2. The problem is our equation, our inequality, is written in the wrong order. These arrows are not going to match. If 2 is bigger than all number x's, then we want all of our x's to be smaller than 2. So if I were you, when your x is on the back side or the right side of the inequality, I would flip that whole entire inequality and write it in the correct order. So that you know that as you read this, x are all numbers that are smaller than or less than 2. Otherwise, you might be tempted to draw an arrow to the right because this says greater than. It says 2 has to be greater than or equal to all of these numbers, which means all of those numbers have to be less than or equal to 2. So for right now, we're going to be flipping them. as we start this, just to save some time. Or not save time, save mistakes. Okay, lastly, we have a word problem. Of course, you're not writing the whole entire thing word for word. You are checking a bag at an airport. Bags can weigh no more than. We did these all the way back in September. No more than. You have to know, and maybe you even still have your chart that I handed out to you sitting in a folder somewhere. It cannot weigh more than 50 pounds. So it could weigh exactly 50 pounds or it can be less than 50 pounds. Your bag weighs 16.8 pounds. Lightweight. It's easy. Write an inequality and then solve to find the possible weight you can add to the bag. You want to add some weight to the bag? You can add as much as you want as long as it doesn't get over 50. And if it gets over 50, then you got to pay extra money. So careful what you add. Minus 16.8 from both sides. You get x is less than or equal to 33.2. And we're going to label it. Find the possible weights you can add to the bag, and we are talking about pounds. You can write pounds or you can write LBS. Who knows why that's an abbreviation. Anything up to 33.2 pounds. But yes, I want you to write the inequality first, like an equation, then solve it, and then here's your answer. It did not ask you to graph it. All right, that's it. Good luck with inequalities.